warm welcome to a pub full of saints on Tuesday, a wet Tuesday, very wet Tuesday, 3rd of January 2023. We didn't trip up on the date there. That's a good start. Everything's going smoothly, and Jake sitting in the dark there. Can you keep things going along like this?
Absolutely. Happy New Year. And what a happy New Year it was for Saints fans, eh? So, hello, everyone.
A happy New Year in the Leewood household as well, I'd imagine.
Everyone's happy. Everyone's happy at Wood Towers, mate. How are you, fellas? Are you well?
I think we are, and we've made happy by events over the past week. God, all this happiness. One person who's probably not quite so happy is the chap who was manager of Hemel Hempstead Town on Boxing Day, Mark Jones. We suggested last week you might be under pressure after losing that game. And sure enough, a few days after the game, he lost his job, and in come Bradley Quinton. Of course, you probably know a bit about him, Lee, from his time at Braintree Town.
Yeah, decent enough manager, but I think, as with all managers at this level, only really excels if he's got a bit of cash to spend. And I'm not entirely sure how deep the pockets of Mr. Boggins are currently. So, but we'll see. We'll see. It was very interesting because I sat in the main stand to watch the game on New Year's Day, and he was quite animated, certainly more so than his predecessor was. But you can see that there was a reaction from the players, which is obviously, it shows you that I think it was sort of time for a change at Vauxhall Road. And but unfortunately, the mighty Saints still managed to get the 3 points.
Gave them a gold start. We tried to help them. What do they want, for goodness sake? Right, you're behind a goal, Jake. 1 or 2 other supporters behind there as well. 3,107. We'll come on to that later. What did you make of it? Lee suggested a bit of a reaction there from Hemel after the new manager come in. Did you sense that as well? And it wasn't as easy as some people thought it might be. We didn't.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think the sacking of Jones, I think, went against us, really, bringing in Quinton. I think there was always going to be reaction. I think he only got 1 training session, but you saw that. And, he spoke in his interview with Hemel that, a lot of those players were going out there and they had to prove themselves because they will be playing for their futures at Hemel. And I think you saw that to some extent, but I also think you saw the class of the Saints come out on top. Hemel, they puffed a lot, they tried a lot, but, despite going behind, I always had confidence, and I thought the Saints' quality showed in the end. But yeah, very tough. And we talked about this in the pub afterwards, Lee, and I'm sure you'll mention it. But it's good to see, isn't it? Another type of victory under David Noble, a very dogged one, a tough one. They dug it out in front of a big crowd. And how often have we sort of mucked it up in front of big crowds at Clarence Park? That's another hurdle over for David Noble and the team.
He faced quite a hurdle before the game, didn't he? Because Tafari Moore had a slight groin strain, so he rested him. And I think his team selection from that surprised everybody. Luca Cardine's come in for starting his league debut, first time he started the league game, on the left of midfield there. And he put in a couple of good crosses, one really good one early on. Shaun Jeffers headed wide. But it didn't really work, did it, that first half? Him and Zane Banton didn't really get an understanding. He seemed to be in Zane's way, really, from where Zane played at Hemel. And I don't think Nobby had much choice but to make that change at half time. But it was still a brave decision to make it that early.
It was, but it was coming. The one thing that I noticed, especially at this near touchline, the pitch was horrendous. It was very slow and it was quite uneven at times as well. And I think Cardines, he struggled. And I'm being polite. He struggled. He was looking hungry for the ball, which is great. But I think he needed a bit more time to sort of settle into the team, and he wasn't having any luck at all. It was sort of taking 2 touches to get the ball under. It wasn't looking as fluid as it has been. Zane was obviously 2 or 3 phases ahead of him, which you're going to get. But I'd say the pitch was horrendous for us. Zane struggled at times. But it's no real surprise that he came off at half-time, Cardines, because I didn't think he offered much, and I thought that we missed Tafari Moore immensely. But that said, we had a bit of a reshuffle, and Joe Neal came on and offered a bit more balance to the side and a bit more pace, a bit more attacking intent, and then away we went. Really, after that.
What did you think on the other flank, Jake? I thought Devante Stanley also held back a lot more. So we didn't have Tafari going down the left and Devante to block the speed of Brooklyn Alunga. And we know how fast he is. We saw it on Boxing Day. And I felt we were trying to nullify that rather than impose ourselves on them.
I think you're right, especially first half. I think Devontae was held back a little bit, and I think further forward, it almost resulted in sort of Mitchell Weiss and Kyron Wiltshire having to do a lot of work down that right. I thought Kyron had a really good game, to be fair. He skipped past a lot of challenges. But yeah, without Devontae sort of bombing on alongside them, it did struggle a little bit. But again, I think after the reshuffle, I thought we saw Devontae willing to get a bit further forward. He got the assist for the equaliser, of course. But yeah, I think that team wasn't quite there. But, as Lee said, Noble is willing to make those changes, and it worked. And I think at half time, I think some people were wondering, could you see Detrolio come on? He's a natural left footer defensively wise, but no, he went for Joe Nil, and you'd argue it's probably a masterstroke, didn't it? It changed the game.
It did, and we know Joe's not the greatest finisher in the land, and he could have had one goal. Cut inside beautifully, but curled it about a yard or so wide. And he gave them so many problems down that left, didn't he? As you say, it revitalised us.
Absolutely. I think that one you say that if he'd scored that would have been one of the goals of the season. That's one of the best touches I've seen at a game in a long time. But interestingly, one of our friends sort of sent us a message from the Cambridge United forum earlier today, and they specifically pointed out that Joe Nil bloke, he looks decent for St Albans City at that level. It's amazing, isn't it? We've seen him all season. We like Joe. He started showing out with wanting to see, and he did have that impact. It's just a shame he couldn't quite score, but still, I mean, what a way to come on and set up Shaun for that all important goal.
One thing I would say though, fellas, is that he had an impact. Sure, yeah, and it was a good touch to get him into the position. Yes, but I think that's the difference. That's why he's finding himself on the bench now, because it's that little bit of quality now. When you're through 1-on-1 with the keeper, you've got multiple options there to score, and he took neither. And I think that's where Joe Nil finds himself now. I think we sort of spoke in the past about trying to fit him into the side. How does he fit into the side? And I think he's found it now in terms of that impact player. As Nobby alluded to in his post-match, he's not just a sub, he's an impact player now. But if he could add any sort of goal-scoring repertoire, he could be a significant player in this side.
Well, there were two other things as well, Lee. You're dead right there. When he got in great positions, with a lovely first touch again, but he hit the ball blind into the middle and went straight to a Hemel defender when there were options around there. So there are things on his games. He's got to improve upon, but we all want him to succeed, don't we? He's one of these players. We just love his attitude and we would love him to come good.
Absolutely. But, there's a bit of pressure on him now as well. We've got, brought in a new lad from Cambridge United. That pressure, hopefully, Joe can thrive.
One other new lad, of course, we saw him on Boxing Day, Mamadou Jobe. And not a bad way to mark your home debut with a header like that, as you mentioned earlier, and assist by Devante Stanley with a hooped ball into the middle. Lovely header.
Yeah, and the one thing that I like is his composure. For someone so young, his organisation is fantastic. He's not afraid to get stuck in. He's not afraid to be going forward as well. And, I don't feel as though we utilise our height enough sometimes. We're always sort of trying to play on this neat patterns on the deck, which is great. But sometimes we need to play to our strengths, especially in our sort of set pieces, which is what came at the game. Because the thing is, it's a good header. I mean, and he meant it. He wasn't just a wild swing at his head. He absolutely meant it. And I think he's going to be a fantastic acquisition for us, because it gives us something different now going forward as well at set pieces.
If nobody surprised us starting with Cardines on the pitch, another surprise later on. Was it 17-year-old Glenn McConnell from Cambridge United? He's not afraid to chuck the youngsters in there, is he? And McConnell in his brightly coloured boots certainly stood out. Bit of talent in there as well, I think.
Yeah, I think Lee, again, he's another highly rated one, isn't he, from the Cambridge United academy. He scored a few goals for their youth team this season. And you could tell he's confident in himself. He carries himself well. And I thought, that final 10, 15 minutes, he didn't do a lot. But what he did well, he pressed Hemel. He harried them into a few mistakes. And while those might not have seemed crucial at the time, I think it just helped prevent Hemel from really getting a foot back in the game. And, you know, it's a bit of a surprise to bring him in, but I thought he looked decent, along with Jobe, who, of course, you know, hit the bar in the first half as well. His aerial presence is a real threat there. I think both of them, it's early days, of course, but both of them look like they could be decent acquisitions to the squad. And it's that strengthening the squad that we've been calling for, isn't it? So it's good to finally see it happening.
It's funny, and over those two games, Hemel had a fair amount of possession. But as we mentioned last week, they're lacking the cutting edge. We saw a difference again on Sunday when Joe Neal cut the ball back. Shaun Jeffers sweeps it in. 20th goal of the season, 6 successive home league games, 5 successive league games. It's phenomenal. It must be a way of stopping him.
It was deft, wasn't it? But the thing is, he's enjoying his football, and you can see that. I think we touched upon it. We said that this game was going to be so much harder than the one at Boxing Day. But if we apply ourselves and play our own game, we'd come out victors. And ultimately, I mean, first half, you could argue Hemel were probably the better side. They had the better chances. They were hungrier. They were quicker. They were stronger. But as we sort of grew into the game, and I think second half, Nobby made some changes, got a bit of balance to the side. I think he got that just about right in terms of personnel. And then we went on forward. I think there were chances at both ends. I mean, it got a bit dicey towards the end. There were a few, you know, late tackles and blocks and what have you. So maybe question for you there, fellas. Were Hemel lucky not to be down to 10 men early on in the first half? It was, you know, if I got kicked in the chest by a rampaging striker, chances are I'd probably get down to the police station for a night or two.
It's interesting, Lee. I saw a clip of it from behind the goal, a proper clip, which is good quality. And it just looked like, as you say, he's gone in, studs up outside the box. Keeper's come out of the box to get the ball. So the forward's right to make a challenge, if you like. But Dylan Berry kept his feet down. Ellacott Romain didn't. He went in and just clattered him. And from behind the goal, it looks straight red. You cannot understand why the referee's only giving a yellow. You see it from the side, the normal camera. And he actually got the ball first. But the problem is, he still had his studs up. Had he had his foot down, he might have got away with it. His studs are up. He should have gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Dylan is lucky to escape really much more serious injury than I think, you know, he has. You know, it's nasty, really nasty looking challenge. And I don't think we should be surprised that, you know, again, I'm sure Brad Quinton got them fired up in the changing rooms beforehand. But yeah, fortunate in some ways, but also, yeah, Hemel lucky themselves not to be down to 10 men.
Well, you've seen the photo, Jake. The scars on Dylan Berry's rib cage. Oh, pretty horrendous, aren't they?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be him.
Of course, it doesn't matter now. He's not our goalkeeper. Well, we don't know, actually. It's due to be decided before Saturday's game. His loan time, I believe, ends before then. We just got fingers crossed, haven't we, that it's going to come off and we've still got him. Because, as you mentioned last week, MJ's still not fit.
No, I mean, watching him in the warm-ups on Saturday and at half-time, he almost looked like he was afraid to throw his hands anywhere near the ball, MJ. So I presume he's still a good probably month away. So if it's not Dylan, then, you know, what do? You've got to make some quick moves this week to try and bring someone in. But, you know, we've said it, haven't we, the last few weeks? It makes sense for almost every party for Dylan to be involved with the Saints for the next month. The only thing is if Norwich appoint a new manager this week after sacking their old one last week. So.
Oh, it's a job for Mark Jones then.
Deary me, Dave.
If Berry goes back to Norwich, what happens to his season ticket? Does he pass it on to someone else? Oh, no, it was in years gone by, wasn't it? Right, what about that crowd? 3,107 for a league game, which is fantastic, isn't it? I felt the atmosphere, though, could have been a bit louder.
Yes, but I got to the ground early because I took my daughter and I bumped into a couple of randomly West Brom season ticket holders. But they're based in Luton and they came down. They're avid followers of non-league football anyway, but they came down to the game to watch the Saints as opposed to the fact it was a derby game or it was New Year's Day. They were going to come down regardless. And they said that it was really enjoyable to watch and it was really enjoyable atmosphere. I suppose when you go to some of these soulless grounds in the league now, you know, you don't really get that sort of sense of like a real sort of home club, if you know what I mean. but they thoroughly enjoyed their time at Clarence Park. And I think what you're finding, Tavs, is just a result, mate, of playing good football and getting winning results. I mean, the fact is, Hemel, the fact it was a New Year's Day game and it was Hemel would have enticed some. But I think on the whole, people want to see a winning team, and Nobby has got us playing some fantastic football as well in the process. So put all that together, and you've got yourselves a bumper crowd of nearly, 3,500.
There's also some credit's got to go to our media team for the way they target areas to get the crowds in there. But we shan't go over the top praise in the club. We don't want that sort of nonsense on here, do we? What about you, Jake? Well, just phenomenal for you as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
I mean, you won't remember the last time we had almost 3,000 for a league game down the park. We'll come on to that in a minute. So, first time you've been in that territory.
Yeah, it's amazing, really. I mean, even if you compare it to crowds in the National League over the last couple of days, it's totally up there, and it's just great to see. And we've always talked about, haven't we? Getting the community out to watch the Saints, and that's what we're getting at the minute, which is absolutely superb. It's funny with 20 minutes to go, looking around the ground, I was like, we're going to be struggling here to get 2.5, but it filled out a lot of latecomers, and it was absolutely brilliant. And I have to say, generally, the experience on the day, of course, there was queues. There's always going to be queues, isn't there? But generally, the experience wasn't too bad, really, compared to previous experience. I mean, if I throw back to the Dulwich game earlier this season, where I spent about half an hour, 40 minutes waiting at a bar, it's much better this time round. So that was great to see. And yeah, the crowd just absolutely amazing. And, not long ago, 5-6 years ago, we would have been begging for crowds like this. So it's superb.
You queuing up at a bar. Some things never change. Right, let's crunch some figures. 3,000 for a league game. The last time we declared one, you'd have been there, Lee. February 1993. You're okay. Not the one I'm coming on to. Cheshire United. Yeah. Do you remember that foggy day? Clarkie's goal, 1-1.
Yeah.
Bernard Tomley was chairman. He declared it as 3,120, I think, something like that. But it wasn't. It was 2,800 odd. But club wanted to declare a gate of over 3,000. Shameful behaviour, of course. Unfortunately, attendances not really declared in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s for league games, only for cup games. But it looks like it might be our largest home attendance for a league game since December 1947. The 3-1 win over Wycombe Wanderers. That was 3,900 odd then. And the following month, we played at home to them in the Amateur Cup. There was 6,800 then. We had a replay at Wycombe, 10,300 odd. So we've got a long way to go to match those, but we're quite happy with having that. And also the way our attendances are going in general this season.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that Chesham game, you haven't got the outlets, the food and drink outlets that you have now. You haven't even got the back of the main stands. You haven't even got the back of the terraces. One thing I would say is that there were a few moans about the length of the queues that I heard, but how ignorant must you be to come to a non-league game with 3,500 and not expect any sort of queues? But that said, everyone had a good time. Everyone went home happy, apart from the Hemel mob. But that's probably the story of their season so far. So good luck to them. I think that, as you spoke about the club there at the media side, they've targeted it very, very well. I had a message from a pod listener, and he looked at the pictures that the club were putting out from the terraces at the game and said, it seems a lot of those are kids. I'm like, well, possibly, yeah. But they're the ones for the future. They are the fans of the future, providing that we can, still appeal to them in terms of the football and the prices as well, because there's no point. One thing I don't want to do now is next season the club start getting a bit greedy and maybe put up a few prices. That's an argument for another day, but you've got them now. This is what you wanted. You've got them here. So it's fantastic to see that, and they're coming back and they're staying, and that really the future does look bright in terms of that aspect as well.
Out of those 3,000, we didn't need the one or two who threw those flares onto the pitch, did we?
No, but we touched upon this, Jake, haven't we? You know, when you appeal to the younger demographic, you get that they come often hand in hand. You know, a big crowd, mates of mates who come to the game. I mean, to be fair, you're looking at a very small ratio of fans who spoil it for the others, but that's fine. I mean, you know, the club are going to deal with that in their own way. But ultimately, Tavs, the majority went away happy and they enjoyed themselves and they were safe in doing so.
Yeah, it's just that minority could cause problems for the majority later on. Because one of the great things about his games with Hemel this season and last season has been no segregation. Now, this could be something that changes if, in light of what has happened, unfortunately.
I think, to be fair, I think, you know, flair-wise, I don't see it changing things. And I think, to be fair, both sets of fans been loud, but I think been fairly well behaved. I think there's been no issues that I've seen of. I think the bigger issue for the club will be they'll probably inevitably get a fine, won't they, from the FA, because it'll be in the referee's report, and I think that'll be the biggest annoyance for the club this year. But you know, I don't see it affecting the segregation. Hopefully, if we play Hemel next season, depending on who goes up, who goes down.
Indeed, Jake. I wonder which way you're looking at that. That was David Noble's 15th game as City manager in the league. And of course, we look back to when Ian Anderson started, and he had 15 games at the end of the season to save us. And do you want to make a comparison, Jake?
Yeah, thanks to your hard work, Dave. I think David Noble is 3 points better off, isn't he, in comparison to Ian? Of course, totally different situations. But I think it does just put into context how impressive David Noble's start is. And, you know, for anyone that's watching this hasn't been watching the Saints for, you know, beyond the last 5-10 years, you know, this is an impressive start by a new manager. This isn't exactly common.
Inexperienced manager.
Exactly. Yeah, and, you know, he's now starting to put a little bit of his own imprint on the squad. But up until the last 2 games, he's been dealing with exactly the same players that Ian Anderson did by the end of his reign. So it's absolutely amazing what he's achieved so far. And the record of, you know, 2 points a game isn't exactly one to be sniffed at. So I think we can only just heap the praise continuously on David at the moment until we lose against Oxford and we have a go at him. But until then, no, you know, he deserves it, I think, totally. And I'm sure there'll be a hiccup coming down the line. Of course there is. We're not going to win every game until the end of the season. But I think the fans and everyone at the club is fully behind Nobby at the minute, which is just great to see.
Well, there's one other manager who had 2 points per game, who was in charge for 15 games or more. That was Bob Derry, and he got sacked after 20 games. So keep looking over your shoulder, Nobby.
But that said, though, Taz, you and I know all too well, Bob's demise was of his own doing half the sort of time. So I'm not entirely sure the two are comparable, but I know exactly what you mean.
Well, we're mentioning about Nobby in the transfer market, and of course, the players he's brought in so far are all on loan, which great. It's great for short term. He might actually get these players long term, but it does mean you're always looking to bring somebody else in at the end of their loan if you can't get an extension. It's not a solid base, if you see what I mean.
But I don't mind that because I think he's finding his feet, and also it would be very unjust for the owners just to go and give him some cash to spend, considering he is so inexperienced in the market himself. I think that is the way we're going to have to sort of deal with things at the minute. You know, a 2-month loan here, 3-month loan here, just until he gets an idea of the sort of players he can attract to the club and whether they fit in seamlessly. He's tried bringing the youth through. He's tried bringing some young professionals through. He's just trying his hand at the minute. But what I think he's doing, and this has to be stressed, is that he's not disrupting the flow of the team. It's not affecting the results. He's bringing, you know, we're talking about players we've already got, and the good players have got us to a certain level, which is great, but there are always better players. It's just whether those players are available and whether they're willing to come to the club. So, you know, yes, your Michael Clarks, your Michael Johnsons, etc., good players, good players for the great servants for the club, but there's always better players out there. And I think that's what Nobby's subtly doing. I think he's looking at sort of bringing in a better standard of player because his expectations are so high. And I think the longer we go on this winning run, the expectation of the players alone are going to be quite high, let alone those of the supporters.
Yeah, I think we should give credit to John Meeks as well as assistant manager.
Mm.
It's also his
Yep.
first time at this level. So the
Yep.
two of them together, they've done a terrific job. You mentioned a winning run. Last 9 games, 1 league games, 1 defeat, 1 draw, 7 wins. Now, big test coming up Saturday on the plastic away to Oxford City. Can we keep it going?
It's a big game, this, isn't it? I mean, and we say this every week at the minute. It's a big game, but it is, because if you can beat Oxford on Saturday, you open up a bit of a gap against them, don't you? And they're just behind, 3 points behind, just outside the playoffs. And we know that Oxford City are a very good team. They're always up there. You know, last few seasons they've been in the playoffs. It's never the best pitch to play on. Don't have great memories playing down there. Haven't got many wins down there, and it's going to be really difficult. But they just go there fully confident again, don't we? And you know, it's going to ask a lot. But you know, I think you saw the celebrations at the end. The players are on, you know, cloud 9 at the minute, and they'll fancy themselves against anyone in this division at the current moment in time, I'd say.
Yeah, Oxford only won winning 6 and only won winning 4 at home. But of course, they've already won 1-0 at Clarence Park this season, and they've got a little chap called Joey Schifano up front.
I mean, I can't remember a single thing about that loss against Oxford this season. Can you, Lee? Can you, Dave? I genuinely don't remember anything about that game.
I was almost as drunk as you were, Jake, so I don't think any of us remember particularly anything positive to come out of there, mate. But look, yes, they're a good side. You know, have they still got Alfie Potter floating around, Joey Stefano?
Yeah.
Good players, granted, but as Tavs has reeled off his stats there, you know, nothing to be, you know, scared of. We go there. People are now looking at us, I feel. You know, we sit in these pods week in and week out, and we regurgitate as all these cliches, but ultimately, people are now going to be looking at us. We are the form team in the entire division, and I think we've now got to stop thinking of ourselves as something to, you know, to scare, you know, to be scared of the opposition. They're now scared of us, and we're going to go there. The only downside for me is that there's some train strikes, so I think some of the fans won't be able to get there, which is a shame because we talk about these big crowds at home, but that needs to be transferred to the away games as well. There needs to be that correlation. I don't know, is there a supporters trust minibus going to the game?
Yes, I believe it's all sold out already. So
right,
annoyingly,
but that's something, you know, because we need fans there, and I think that's going to be the next test of how dedicated the support base is now. Is about sort of following us away from home because they're good days. And away wins are often a bit more sweeter as well.
Yeah.
Sold out this early, Jake. Order a bigger one.
Yeah.
I just want to get one point back to the Hemel game. I should have mentioned the referee was Callum Walchester. He didn't send off Elliot Romains. We thought he should have done Saturday. He was the referee for the Taunton game when he disallowed Shaun Jeffers' free kick. He's got it in for us this season.
And I thought he was really quite poor on New Year's Day. Of course, I'm seeing that through Saints' glasses. But, I mean, any time that apart from Shaun's winning goal, any time that Shaun got near the ball, essentially, he blew for a foul by Shaun. I thought he's really struggled, really. The linesman as well, on our side, Dave, first half, was very enthusiastically flagging for Hemel most of the time. So yeah, I think the last 2 games have been in contrast to 2 officiating team performances, hasn't it? Hemel away, very good. Hemel at home, very poor. So hopefully we don't see him for a little while now.
All right, okay, that's one way of putting it. Right, shall we have a prediction for Saturday then? You're there on camera, Jake. You go for it.
Yeah. How did the predictions go for New Year's Day?
You were way out. You were way out as usual.
Yeah.
How did I go on, Tabs?
Previous game. Don't worry about that, Lee.
All right.
Go on, Jake.
I'll go 2-1 Saints.
Go on then, Lee. Of course, you got it right. New Year's Day. Hey! Which wiped out Jake's win on Boxing Day.
I'm gonna go. What did you say, Jake? What did you say?
2-1.
2-1. Yeah, I tell you what, I'm gonna go for 2-0.
Oh God.
Yeah. Of course, it was at Marsh Lane last season where defeat meant we couldn't get in the playoffs mathematically. So we owe them one, and we owe them one for losing at home earlier this season. God, we owe them a lot, don't we?
Yeah, we do indeed. That was an enjoyable day apart from the football. So hopefully this time around. The football will be very.
We had that a lot,
enjoyable.
didn't we, mate? Towards the end of last season.
Yeah. Oh, dearie me.
All right. There you go. Anything else anybody wants to chuck in, or could we go and put a dinner on now?
We spoke about managers losing their jobs earlier on. Gary McCann's left Hampton, or has been asked to leave Hampton. So the New Year merry-go-round continues in our division, and who knows where he'll end up. But I'm not entirely sure that Quinton will remain at Hemel, to be fair. Again, that's not our conversation to have. So, alas, here we are.
Why do you think that, Lee? You don't think it's the right match?
I think it's the right match, but as I said, he's a success when he has a bit of money to play with. And I think Boggins, Mr. Boggins, I think he's had his fingers burnt over the past few years with the amount of outlay he's got and players, good players on lots of money, just not performing, which I think brings it back to what Nobby's doing. It's so refreshing, to have, there's players on there who are on decent whack, but they're performing as well and they're winning us games of football. And it's not always going to be roses and, mad squirrel ale. There's going to be some tough times, but until those times come, let's ride the roller coaster, fellas, and see where it gets us. I'm thinking maybe even playoffs.
Oh.
There's no stopping him now, Jake, is there? No stopping him.
I know. Let's not watch this back at the end of the season.
No.
Let's.
Right.
Well,
right. If you're going to Oxford Saturday, buy your ticket online because you can get a discount there. Which makes it even more worthwhile, which means you've got more money to spend down the park the following week, of course.
Look at that customer service from Dave as well. Who knew?
A smile.
Yeah. And on that note, thank you very much. And we will see you again next week. Goodbye, everyone.
See you Saturday.
Take care.